Hey gang, Jane here with the final installment of our Crochet Star Quilt Throw series. Today we're focusing on adding the borders to our throw. These borders are divided into 3 sections that frame the central quilt star design that we created in the first 3 videos of this series. If you haven't caught up with those first 3 videos yet, you can find them linked in the description below. As mentioned earlier, I've split this tutorial into 3 sections, borders 1, 2, and 3. Borders 1 and 3 feature a straightforward single crochet chain stitch pattern that you've probably seen me use a lot. I'll get you started on those and briefly explain my color choices, and then I'll leave you to work through them independently. The middle section, border number 2, involves mini versions of our solid square, joined using a join-as-you-go method, creating a really nice geometric border to frame our piece. I'll guide you through this part with more detailed instructions. And you know, as is with most of my tutorials on techniques, this border style isn't just for this throw. You could easily use it for other blankets as well. Since this video covers all 3 border sections, it's going to be a bit longer. So let's dive right in and I'll walk you through each step as we go. So for our first round of our first border, we want to use our main color, and we're going to do 2 rounds of this main color. To get ourselves to a chain space border on a solid square, this is how we do it. You join your main color with a single crochet in any one of the 4 corners of the throw. So you're starting in the top right corner of the square that's in the top right corner of the throw. And you're going to work into this chain 2 space right here. I'm also working with the same hook size that I used for these squares. So I join with a standing single crochet. So I wrap my yarn around my hook first. Then I insert into this chain space and under the back, and I complete the single crochet. I'm going to work my yarn in as I go, which means I'll be weaving it back and forth across the working yarn. So to get started, we chain 2. We skip our first stitch, which is right in here. It looks like it's part of the chain 2, but that's our first stitch right there. And we work into the next stitch, single crochet. Chain 2, skip our next stitch and work into the next stitch, single crochet, chain 2, skipping the next stitch and working into the next stitch, again single crochet. You're going to continue like this until you reach the next corner of this square. And we're there. So total for this square only, we've worked a single crochet in the chain 2 space and then done chain 2 single crochet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times and a chain 2. We're going to work into this chain 2 space of the first square. There is no stitch there to skip because our stitches, that's how the stitch count works out, just so you're aware of that. So that's 1 square done, and we're going to repeat that across all the squares. So let's do the next square, and then I'll leave you be till you reach the corner. Chain 2, single crochet in the first chain space of the next square. Chain 2, skip the first stitch, single crochet in the second stitch. Make sure you're going into the right stitches here. These half double crochets have a bar across the front, so you want to make sure that you look at the loops at the top. Chain 2 and single crochet, skipping this next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. Work your way until you get to this corner, and then you just keep repeating that until you reach the corner of the throw. I'll meet you there. Now I've reached the next corner of the throw, and this is the last square. This would be like the 8th square across. I did my chain 2, and I'm going to work a single crochet into that chain 2 corner, chain 2, and single crochet into the corner again. That turns the corner for this round. You will continue to work what we just did across this edge by skipping the stitches and chain 2, single crochet around the next 3 edges. And when you get back to the chain 2 that we started in, I'll show you how we finish this round and start the next one. We've come back to our final corner where we started. This is where we started. You can see that I worked the end in here. This is the chain 2. We've done our last chain 2 after our single crochet. Single crochet into that same chain 2 space we started in. Chain 2. And slip stitch in the first single crochet. That finishes your round. The next round I also want to use this color, and where we want to go here is we've slip stitched here, we want to go into this chain space right here. So just slip stitch into that chain space to get started on the next round. Chain 1, single crochet in that same chain space you just slip stitched into. That's the first chain space of the previous round. Chain 2, single crochet in the next chain space. Chain 2. This is what we're going to do all the way across. Single crochet in the chain space, chain 2, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 2, all the way across to the corner. When you get to the corner, you'll do single crochet, chain 2, single crochet into the corners, and continue as established till you get all the way back to the first corner that we worked in, and then I'll meet you back here to finish off round 2. Now, coming back around this last corner, we didn't actually start in the corner. If you recall, we slip stitched to the first chain space. So let's find our way back to finish this round. I did a single crochet in this last chain space and a chain 2. It's like I did chain 1, so there's chain 2. Then we do a single crochet in the corner chain space, chain 2, do another single crochet in that corner, chain 2, slip stitch in this first single crochet right over here. That completes that second round. So you'll want to cut your yarn, and we'll darn that in later. Pull it through. That's round 2. I'm going to use this blue for the next round. This is round 3. And then the next round will be beige. I think it's called honey. And it's pretty much the same stitch. So we're going to take our blue yarn and do a standing single crochet in this corner chain space. You could do it in any one of the 4 corners. Wrap the yarn around, insert into the chain 2 space, and complete your single crochet. Chain 2, and I'm going to work my end in as we go. Single crochet in the next chain space. That's it. Chain 2. Grab my yarn here. And single crochet in the next chain 2 space. This is what you're going to do all the way around, working single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corners, just like we've been doing. So it's really the exact same stitch as the round before it, but you've joined a new color and working in a different color. When we come back to this corner, we'll work a single crochet and a chain 2, and we'll slip stitch here and fasten off. Then you're going to start the beige round and do the exact same thing, but you're going to work chain 1s in between. So you're actually pulling it in. I'm going to let you go ahead and work on that. And when you have all 4 rounds finished, you'll be ready to start on border number 2. It's important to do exactly the 4 rounds for this first border, as it makes the stitch count work out to the right number so that border number 2 will work. Border number 2 uses a multiple of 5 chain spaces. There'll be 59 single crochets per edge, and this includes 1 in each corner. This means there'll be 60 chain spaces to work into across each edge for border number 2, and that includes the corner chain 2 spaces, which will be worked into multiple times at the corners. For border number 2, you'll first need to make 52 small solid colored squares. Now don't worry, they're very quick to make up. There are only 2 rounds. This square is the same pattern as the full solid square, but it's only the first 2 rounds, and then you fasten off. Same method where round 1 is right side and round 2 is wrong side, so that we're keeping the look consistent throughout the throw. So just follow rounds 1 and 2 as we did for the first video of this series for the solid square. And you don't have to leave any ends for sewing, because I'm going to show you how to crochet them into the border with the join as you go method. So I used all the colors for these, and then I put them in an order that I liked the look of them. You'll need 52 of these squares total to fit around the entire throw. And again, you can do them all in one color, or you can just choose a few colors. Do it whatever way you want. It didn't work out evenly, of course, with all my colors, so I just kept making them until I had 52. So check out the blog for more info on the color choices that I chose. So I'm placing things like this so it matches the diagram. So here are my little squares, and I'm going to join them with a join as you go, and I have them in order over here in a pile. Let's look at a finished example of this. So this topaz color is the edge of the blanket, and we're going to be adding the squares, working up the side, joining a new one, adding it to the blanket. I have both a diagram and written instructions for this join as you go technique to assist you over on the blog post. So as I work through the video, you will hear me use the letters A through D and an E when I'm working the corners. These letters refer to the points on the diagram and in the instructions and will help you understand what sections to repeat to complete the full border. So let's take our first square and get joining it. So we're going to start with our off-white yarn. That's what I'm using to do the joining. And we do a single crochet in the corner that we want to start on. So I just do a standing single crochet so that my yarn is joined. I'm going to be joining along this edge. So I'm going to flip my work to the wrong side now. And I'm going to take my square, wrong side facing together, wrong side, right side facing me. And the blanket right side is facing away from me. This is so our textures are all working together. Chain 1, and then single crochet in this corner chain 2 space. Really, any of the chain 2 spaces will work, just have it oriented this way. So we do a single crochet there. And now we are at point A. Our next step is to chain 1. Now we go back to the blanket edge and we single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1. Bringing our square back, skip a stitch and single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1. Now back to the blanket edge, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1. Back to our square, skip a stitch and single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1. Back to the blanket edge, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1. Now back to our square, we're going to do a single crochet in the next corner, chain 2 space, and chain 1. And back to our blanket one more time, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1. We've now joined one edge of our square to the edge of the blanket. We are now at point B. We're going to rotate our square and work down this edge. So we ended here with a chain 1, single crochet back into that same corner that we already worked into on the square, and chain 1. Skip a stitch and single crochet in the next stitch. So when you get to here, it's like skipping, just try to work into every second. So I'll skip the stitch here, single crochet here, and chain 1, skip another stitch and single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, and this is point C. Single crochet in the corner, chain 1. So what I have down the edge of the square is a single crochet in the corner, 2 single crochets on the edge itself, and another single crochet in the corner. So there's 4 on this edge with chain 1s in between. Ending with a chain 1, we're now flip the square so the wrong side's facing us. We bring in our next square and put it wrong sides together, right side facing us. And this is point D. And we're going to join it along this edge. So single crochet in the front square corner, chain 1, go to the back square, single crochet in in that first chain space right here after the corner, chain 1, back to the front. We're going to skip a stitch and single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, back square, single crochet in this chain space, the next one that's free, chain 1, back to the front square, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, back to the back square. You want to go into the next chain space and single crochet, chain 1, front square, you want to go into this corner, single crochet, chain 1. Now to the back, you want to go into this next chain space, which is really the going around the corner there. So that single crochet and a chain 1. Now before we come back to the new square, we want to go one more time into the blanket. After we've done this chain space, we're going to skip right over to this chain space on the blanket edge. Make sure you have that chain 1 there. Single crochet in this next free chain space on the blanket edge, chain 1, come back to the front square and single crochet in the chain space, the corner one. You've already worked into it once, work into it again. We've now returned to point A and the beginning of our repeat. Now, because you guys always ask me to do a couple of repeats before I leave you to it, I'll do a few more squares before I let you finish the edge. If you think you have it, you can skip ahead to the corner demonstration and I can meet you there. Otherwise, follow along while I add a few more squares, and I'm going to stick the letter up in the corner when we reach each point. Chain 1. Now we're going to work this square to the blanket edge. Go back to the blanket edge and do single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1, back to the front square, skip a stitch and single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, back to the blanket edge, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1, to the front square, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, to the blanket edge, you want to go into the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, back to the front square, you're going into the corner now, single crochet, chain 1, back to the blanket one more time, next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, rotating our square. You now want to work along this edge here. Let's just take a quick look at what we've done. We started here, joined them along here, worked this edge of the square, and then joined it to a new square coming back up to the blanket. Then we joined the new square to the blanket, and now we're going to work our way down the edge of this square. So let's keep going. At this point, you finish working into the blanket a single crochet, chain 1. So we go back to this square corner. We've already worked into it once. Single crochet, chain 1. Working down the square, we skip a stitch and we single crochet into the next stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch and chain 1, and then single crochet into that corner and chain 1. I have a lot of blanket on my lap, so it's kind of pulling on my yarn. Now we want to join another square. So bring in your next square, flip your work to the wrong side, and you're going to join it to this edge going back up to the blanket. Put them together, wrong sides together, right side facing me of the new square. We ended with this chain 1, single crochet in the corner of the new square. Chain 1, single crochet in the chain space on the back where we just worked, and chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch on the front square and chain 1, back to the back square, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1, front square, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, back square, go into the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, front square, we're working into the corner, single crochet and chain 1. Into the back square, we go into this next chain space right here, single crochet and chain 1. So we need to join ourselves back to the blanket to finish off this part. So we do a single crochet, chain 1. We're attached to the back blanket, and now we want to single crochet in the corner of the new square. Single crochet, and we've returned to point A. Chain 1. Going back to the blanket edge, we go into the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1. Then we come back to the front, skip a stitch, and single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1, back to the blanket edge, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1, back to the front square, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1. The blanket edge, we go to the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, back to the front square, single crochet in the corner, chain 1, into the blanket edge, into the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1. Rotate the work so that we can work down the next edge of the square. This is point B. Go into this chain 2 space that we've already worked into and single crochet, chain 1. This is a half double crochet. The stitch for it is right in here. It looks like it's in the chain space. So we're skipping that, working into this one, skipping this one, and working into this one, and then we just go into the corner. It doesn't necessarily look like you're skipping the proper stitches, but however you do it, just be consistent. So skipping that stitch, single crochet in this stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next one, chain 1, and go into your corner, single crochet and chain 1. Now we're going to flip our work to the wrong side, bring in our new square, single crochet in the corner of the new square, chain 1. Going back to where we just worked down the other square, you go into the chain space, the first one, and single crochet, chain 1. Come back to your front square, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1. Going back to the back, we go into the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1. Coming back to the front, we skip a stitch and single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1. Going back to the back square, go into this chain space, that's the next one available, single crochet, chain 1. And back to the front square, we go into the corner, single crochet, chain 1, back to the square at the back, you go into the next chain space. See how we worked this one? You go into this one, single crochet, chain 1, and now we're going to go into the blanket way over here. You miss all of this stuff and go into the next chain space of the blanket, single crochet, chain 1, and then to finish off for D, you would do a single crochet in the corner of the front square again, which I have not done yet here, but then you would be ready to start again at point A. So now you have all the points, and that's what you're going to do all the way across until we get to the corner, and I'll show you how to add the corner in. Let's take a quick look here at what we've already done. We started with this square, and then we've added 3 more squares, and we're finished where we just finished off here is what I call point A, ready to do the next square to the blanket. And you will continue to add more squares. Once you have 12 squares added across your edge, you're ready to start your corner. So you'd be working up this strip, and then you add on this square, and then you start working your way down this strip. And right here you can see that you will work 3 stitches into this corner chain space. So now that you've taken a look at that, let's actually do it. Now, if you're following the diagram or the written instructions, we will finish the 12th square at C and we'll be starting at what we call E1 for the corner. So before we move on, I have a little confession here. In this next section, you might notice that some of the squares have the wrong side facing out when they should have the right side facing out. Even though I joined them correctly, somewhere along the way, I mixed up my wrong sides and my right sides, just like I ask you guys not to do. It's such an easy mistake to make. And this is proof. I didn't realize it until after I'd finished this section, but the only difference is that the textures would just be not completely uniform. So that said, I did rip this part out and go through it multiple times to test the technique. And on my final round, I did put them all with the right side facing out. I just wanted to mention it in case you're wondering why some of these squares look reversed. So I left this in because, let's be real, we all make mistakes. I often hear that you think I don't, but trust me, I do. A lot. It's all part of the process, and honestly, that's how I figure things out. So whenever you make a mishap, and they will happen, don't stress. It just means you're on the right track to something better. Okay, let's move on. So we've added the last square to this edge, and now I want to take the next square and we're going to go one square outside of this edge, because then we're going to turn and work back along here. So we add it the same way that we've done all the other ones. We take our work, flip it to the wrong side, add our square so the right side of the square is facing us, wrong sides are together. We've already done the chain 1 when we finish going down this side of the square, and we insert into this chain space and work a single crochet. So adding it just like we added all the others. Chain 1, single crochet into this next chain space on the back square, chain 1, back to the front, pick your next stitch there, skipping over one and working into the next one, single crochet, chain 1, into the next chain space on the back, single crochet and chain 1, come back to your front, skip a stitch, go into the next stitch, single crochet, chain 1, back to the back square, into the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1. Coming back to the front, we now reach the corner, single crochet in the chain 2 space corner of your new square, and then chain 1, go to the back square and work into the next chain space, which is the corner, single crochet, chain 1, and I'm going to single crochet over here into the corner just to tack it into place, chain 1, and now that I've single crocheted in that with the chain 1, I want to work down this edge, so I go back into the corner where I just single crocheted there, and chain 1, and now we're working down this edge. So skip over a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip over a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and chain 1, and now we go into the corner, single crochet and chain 1. So we've come up this way and we added this extra square here. Now I'm going to go across this edge. I will be joining a square here, and then we're going to start joining across here. So grab your next square, we're going to flip to the wrong side, we ended with that chain 1. Put the squares wrong sides together so this new square's right side faces us. Single crochet in the corner, chain 2 space, and chain 1. Now again, just joining these two together. Single crochet in the back square, chain space, chain 1. Come back to the front square, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, back square, single crochet in the chain space, chain 1, front square, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next, chain 1, back square, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1, front square, single crochet in this corner, chain 1. I want to go into this space at the back square. So you can see there's the corner. There's a space here. I want to go into this nice big space. Single crochet into that, chain 1, and now single crochet into the corner again, chain 1, and we are going to work our new square working across our new edge. So we ended in the corner of our actual blanket. So we come back and work into the chain space that we already worked into on this new square, single crochet, chain 1, and we're off and ready to go down the next edge. You'll continue as established with the repeats across the next edge for 12 squares, and then you're going to do another corner. Let's take one more look at this corner now that I've added one more square to it. So we came down this side of the blanket, did this extra square at the corner, rotated and started working this way. So that is how you work around the corner. You can see here we worked 3 times into this blanket corner. And now that we've got to here, you just continue to add the squares like we did on the first part, one at a time until you get to your next corner. And then we're going to go back to add this extra square. That will turn the corner for you and you'll head down the next one. That's what you do at every corner, and then you just continue on your strip like we did at the very beginning of this. Now, once you've added all 51 squares, you're going to want to add that 52nd square as your last square in the corner. So this was square 1 right here, and I worked my way all the way around the blanket, and I came back across this last edge, and this is the 12th square on this edge, not counting the corners. And we have 1 square left to put in, and it's the corner square. So let's follow that through because it's a little bit different because you're not adding a new square, you're joining it to this first square right here. So we'll be adding in this corner square, the very last one. We're going to attach it here the way that we did before and come all the way around it. And then we're going to attach it here. So we take our corner square and we place it on top of the previous square. Right side is facing us and wrong sides are together. We have our chain 1 already done here. And now we single crochet into this corner of the square, the new one. Chain 1. Go to the back and go into the chain space. Single crochet, chain 1. Come back to the front. Skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch and chain 1. Go to the back, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1. Back to the front, skip a stitch, single crochet, chain 1. To the back, into the next space, single crochet, chain 1. Back to the front, and we go into this chain corner, single crochet, chain 1. Into the next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, into the corner, single crochet, chain 1. So it's actually the third single crochet into that corner, but it's the second one we've done at this side. This is our very first stitch of the round. Next, we'll be working down this edge so that we can join it to this first square. So just the edge of this square, single crochet back into that chain 2 corner space of the square, chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, single crochet in the corner, chain 1. Now when we flip it over, we would normally add another square right here, but instead we're going to join it to this first square. So all I want to do is just place them together, wrong sides together. And I'm going to keep my first square on the front. So this is the first square of the round that we started way back. We did our chain 1 here, so now we go single crochet into the chain space corner of this first square, chain 1, single crochet in the chain space at the back, chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next, chain 1, single crochet in the next chain space, chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, chain 1, next chain space, single crochet, chain 1, back to the front, single crochet in this chain corner, chain 1, go into the next space that's back here, single crochet, chain 1, and that's it. At this point, we would normally do a single crochet in the corner of the throw, but see, we have our first single crochet there, which counts as the third one. So all you want to do is slip stitch into that first single crochet, and you will be finished, because you already have the single crochet in this corner as well. So that's the difference when you finish up. After you go into that next space, and before you go into that corner, which you don't need to because you already did, you go into that first single crochet, which was a standing single crochet that I did, and you slip stitch it. And that's the end of the round. So I will cut my yarn, pull it through, and then I will just darn it in. I will darn this end from before because I didn't work it in, and then I'll darn this end in as well. Let's take a look here. And that will finish the border. This is the last square and this is the first square. These ends need to get darned in, and then we'll be starting border number 3 in any one of the throw corners. For the third border, it's going to be just like this border number 1, except every round will be single crochet, chain 1. I did everything else with the blanket with a 5.5 millimeter. Now I'm going down a size to a 5 millimeter for 2 of the rounds. And then I go down another size to a 4.5 millimeter for the next 2 rounds. I find that that just brings the blanket in nicely, not too tight, but it doesn't flare out that way. If you find you're a tight crocheter, you may not have to go down in crochet size. You may only go down to 1 size. You may even find you want to stick with the original. So that's all personal preference. What I like to do is go down to the 5 millimeter for the first 2 rounds and a 4.5 millimeter for the next 2 rounds. So I'll show you how to get started. My first round is going to be in my main color, and it's exactly like this. So I'll just get you started and then you can go from there. We work a standing single crochet into our first corner chain space, and you can do it on any corner of the throw. And then you chain 1. I'm going to work my yarn in as I go. Skip a stitch and single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1. Skip a stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 1. Work into the corner of this little square, single crochet, chain 1. Work into this space that was created by the chain 1 in between the squares, so right in to there. Get my yarn and keep it with me here. Single crochet, chain 1. I'm back to the second square. Working into this corner, single crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet, chain 1, skip a stitch, single crochet, chain 1, and into this corner chain space of the second square, single crochet, chain 1, into the space in between them. You're looking for that chain 1 that was created when you joined this section to this section. So right in there, single crochet, oops, everything falls off. Complete that single crochet, chain 1. That's what you're going to do all the way across for each of these squares. When you get to the next corner, you'll do a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner. And then you'll proceed across the next, and you'll do that all the way around for the first round. I'll let you do that. I'll meet you back here and we'll start the second round, which will be the same as each of the subsequent rounds. We've worked all the way around our throw and we're back to our final corner. I did a chain 1, single crochet in that last chain 2 space that we started in at the beginning here, chain 2, and slip stitch in the first stitch. That completes your round, and you're now set up to do as many border rounds as you want. So I've clipped my yarn and pulled it through. Round number 2, I'm going to work with a color. I'm going to stay with my 5mm hook for this round, and I'm using my soft taupe color because, to be honest here, I was using the honey back here, but I was using up scraps and I ran out of honey, so I changed to soft taupe. You can use any colors you want on the border. For round 2, and this will be the same as the rounds going forward, you join with a single crochet in the corner chain 2 space. So I do my standing single crochet, chain 1, and single crochet in the next chain space. So all the chain spaces are set up now from the previous round. Chain 1, single crochet in the next chain space. You're going to do that all the way around. When you hit the corners, you'll do single crochet, chain 2, single crochet in the corner. Keep on moving around till you get back to here. You will single crochet in this chain space, chain 2, and then you'll slip stitch in the first stitch and you'll complete your round. Every round will be like that. I do 4 rounds. So I'll do 1 in this soft taupe, and then I'll bring back this blue because I have some of it to bring back. And I'll do that next so it kind of mirrors itself. And then I'll finish off with this off-white, parchment color I call it. And that's how many I do for this one. So that's 4 rounds. You can do as many as you want with as many or as few colors as you want. This round I'm using a 5mm. In the next 2 rounds, I go down to a 4.5mm just to bring the edges in so they don't flare out. That's personal preference. It's just a trick I use. But if that's too tight for you, then don't go down. Stay with whatever hook works for you. Here you can see the finished look of the last 4 rounds for border number 3, and the finished look of all 3 border sections together. This also completes the Crochet Star quilt throw. Thanks so much for joining me in this series. I hope you'll find the techniques we use to make this throw useful for other throw ideas you may have going forward. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any of my upcoming tutorials. Happy crocheting, and I'll see you next time.